Hello and welcome to another video about my knitting plans for spring and summer of this year. I've got some patterns lined up that are obviously going to be linked in the description box for things that I am planning to make this spring and summer. I have previously not really been one for summer knits, but this year I'm really feeling it. I want to make some summery tops and some summery socks, and yes, I will talk about all of the things I want to knit this spring and summer in this video. So I've picked out 8 patterns and I fully realized that I might not get to all of them, but these are the short list of things that I will pick from. In terms of yarn for these projects, I kind of have 2 goals. One of them is to use up both scraps and stash yarn that I already have, and then the other one is that if I buy new yarn, which some of these projects require me to, then I want to try something new. So I want to experiment with some fibers that I haven't knit with before. As I said, I've not traditionally been one for summer knits, and therefore I haven't worked a lot with cotton, linen, silk, and these sort of more lightweight summery fibers. So that's what I'm hoping to do. If I'm going to buy yarn for these projects, I'm going to make it something interesting and something I haven't worked with before. Let's get started. You will find all of the information about the patterns and about the yarns in the description box. I want to start with summer tops, and there is such a huge selection of summer tops that it took me so long to look through, and there's some that are really extraordinarily intricate and there are some that are much more simple. I settled on one that I want to use this lace yarn with. This is a yarn that I showed in my very first knitting podcast because I'd just impulse bought it in a yarn shop. It's a Rico design luxury lace, and it is a 70% wool, 30% silk blend. It feels so incredibly soft, and for a lace weight yarn, which this is 200 meters on 25 grams, so 800 meters on 100 grams. For a lace weight yarn, it feels quite plump and squishy. So I'm hoping this is going to be a good yarn to use for the very first project that I'm planning this spring and summer, and that is a top called the Casual Top by nakedknit. It is knit bottom up on 2.5mm needles. How much do I hate myself, you might ask? There's the answer. Irregardless of the torture I might go through to actually make this top, there are a few things that really attracted me to it. One of them was its simplicity. It's a very basic, do you call that a boat neck? I'm not entirely sure, but it has a sort of high wide neckline, and it's sleeveless but not strappy, so I can wear this with any bra underneath and it shouldn't be a problem. But what I like most about it is the fabric that comes out of it. You can see from some of the sample pictures that if you knit this in a light color fabric, it is quite transparent. However, the designer also put up sample pictures of a dark navy fabric, and you can see that that's pretty solid and not see-through. So I'm hoping with this black yarn that it should give me a thin but solid and opaque fabric. The other thing that attracted me to this was the size, because this is a sort of formula type pattern by the sounds of it. So you take your own measurements and then the pattern tells you what exact stitch count and row count you need to work with to get the top fitted for your measurements. It's supposed to be 0 to 2 centimeters of positive ease, so very closely fitted to the body. This is a top that I'm fairly certain I will cast on very soon, because with 2.5mm needles, I expect it'll take me most of the summer to actually knit it. The second top I want to make is the So Summer shirt by Jessie Maed Designs. And this is a designer that you'll find a few more times in this list. I really genuinely adore her designs, and I have knit her patterns before and really liked how they're written. This is one I haven't done before, and I liked that it is designed for a cotton linen blend yarn. As I said, I want to experiment with some new fibers for this, so I expect this is a top that I will buy the yarn for, and that I'll have a little browse and see what's there that fits those criteria in terms of the weight of the yarn and also the fiber. I've never knit with linen at all, I don't think. I believe I have knit with cotton before, but not with that blend. This is a very basic top. There's nothing super intricate about it, but I like the way it sits. I'll probably end up making it a little longer than the very cropped version of the sample pictures. However, I should also point out that I am extremely short. I'm 1.52 meters or 5 foot exactly in your old imperial measurements. So tops that are cropped in the samples sometimes are just standard length for me. So just because something is cropped on a model doesn't necessarily mean, in fact, means that it's most likely not cropped on me. So I probably won't have to add a whole lot to the length of this, but maybe I'll add a little bit more, and I'll make sure to buy the extra amount of yarn that requires. Again, just a really classic looking, staple looking t-shirt that I'm feeling drawn to because I have never knit any summer wear before. So this year I'm feeling drawn to these classic staples, things that I can wear over and under anything. Next year we might get the extravagant laces and the intricate patterns. For now we'll stick with the basics. Speaking of which, there's one top that is probably not considered a basic, but is something that I'd quite like to own. And that is, I really want to make a mesh top or a mesh jumper to wear over tank tops, for example, or to wear over t-shirts. And I haven't owned a mesh top in many years. Part of me wonders whether I'm getting a little too old for that style of clothing, but then another part of me thinks, fuck it, you're never too old to look incredible. And so I really want to make myself a black mesh top. And I have two options for this, and I've not yet settled on which one I actually want to make. One of them is, I feel like, a very popular pattern in the knit community, and that is the pure mesh pullover by James and Watts. And this looks really nice. It looks so well designed. It is very fitted. It's supposed to be fitted with 0 to -2 centimeters. So basically with negative ease or very close to the body. But I really like the way that the neckline looks and the sleeves look. It looks just so highly finished. What I don't like about it is that it is so tightly fitted. And that's why I'm kind of tempted to go for the second mesh pattern that I picked out for myself. And this one's actually a crocheted one, so forgive me for that. I do also crochet on the side. This is called the Topaz tee, and it is by Alexandra Tavel. You can see this is a much more loose fitted top. The sample pictures show it in a taupe kind of color, but I would knit that in black, and I would knit that in black cotton specifically. I like the looser fit of this, but I'm not sure on whether I want it to be short sleeved. I think I might actually prefer a long sleeved top. So that might be one to buy and then modify slightly to make the sleeves longer. So with that one, I'm still undecided about whether to pick the knit or the crochet pattern. You can let me know which one you prefer if you like, or if you have made either of those two, that I'd be interested in hearing your thoughts and experiences with those patterns as well. The next top I want to make is another Jessie Maed Designs one, and this is the Summer Secret Crop, which is a free pattern, and it's designed to basically use up one ball of yarn or less, which means it is quite an airy fabric and it is quite cropped. However, you can make it with more yarn and therefore change the sizing of it. I have made this one before, once, I think when it just came out in the early days of the pandemic, but I didn't choose my yarn very wisely. I mean, I did use scraps, which is what the designer suggests in the pattern as well, but the yarn I picked was, I believe, a DK weight sock yarn that was quite scratchy. So the top ended up fitting quite well, but it was a bit uncomfortable to wear next to skin, and it turned out a bit too warm as well. So this time I'm going to try something different. I've got this kind of cheap cotton polyester blend yarn that I pilfered from my mother's house. I spoke about that in the Knitting Podcast episode 2 if you want to hear more about this. It is a black and white, sort of twisted together. I don't know what the technical term is for this type of yarn. And I have 3 balls of this, and with 750 meters, which is what 3 balls of this make, you can easily make this top in a length that's not too cropped on me, and also maybe a size up so that it sits a little bit looser rather than being quite so close fitting. And the Jessie Maed parade does not end here, because the final top, well, jumper pattern that I want to make is the Cozy Classic Raglan by her. If you heard that noise, that's my cat jumping on top of the bookshelf, which unfortunately you can't see, but you'll just have to believe me that she's very cute. I have made the Cozy Classic Raglan before. In fact, it's the jumper I'm wearing. A fairly simple, standard Raglan shaped jumper that's made in a fingering weight and a mohair yarn. It's got shorter shaping at the back. It fits pretty much whichever way you want it to. You really can customize Jessie Maed patterns a lot, including with the sleeves. So I did the bubble sleeve modification here, which pretty much means that you knit the sleeves straight and then decrease at the cuff. I really like this. This is one of the earlier jumpers I made. So I've had this for probably about 3 years now, and it's one of the jumpers I wear a lot. I find it really comfortable, and I just like how it fits. So I want to make another one. And for that other one, I want to use up some yarn that has been in my stash forever. I have a sweater's quantity of Drops Baby Merino, which is a superwash 100% merino yarn, and I have that in various colors. I'll show you just some of them. And I bought these for a different jumper pattern that I was very excited about when I bought the yarn. However, I went off that pattern quite quickly, and I also went off superwash treated merino. Again, this is kind of early in my knitting career, and I hadn't experimented with a lot of different yarns yet. So I've had these various colors of this Drops yarn in my stash for so long, I finally want to use them up. You know what, I might as well show you all of the colors that I've got. Most of the yarn is in this dark grey color. So about half or more than half of the jumper quantity yarn that I have here is in this dark grey color. And then I've got this pale blue, this pale yellow, this really quite pretty, I don't know what you call it, sort of like a brick peach hybrid. That makes no sense. What do you call this? It's like a coral, but more muted than coral. Coral kind of suggests bright, doesn't it? Anyway, then there is burgundy. There's an olive green somewhere. There we have it. And there is this, which is actually, this is not Drops Baby Merino. This is a different brand that you know where to find the details, but I thought it kind of fits in with the colour scheme. So I have all these colourful yarns and nothing to do with them. And what I also have is a huge quantity of Drops Kit Silk in black. This is one that I bought for the Felix cardigan that I showed in the last podcast episode. And then I ended up not using it for the Felix cardigan. I ended up just using a single strand of Drops Air rather than holding it double with the mohair. And that was because I made up a swatch just from Drops Air and I liked the fabric, and so I didn't feel the need to also add the mohair to it. So I thought, why not combine the two? And I realized that the most commonly done thing is for mohair to match wool when you knit with two strands. But pretty much every time I've knitted with mohair and wool, I have not matched them, and I've always really liked the results. So for example, for this, the merino is a dark burgundy and the mohair is a really bright red, and you get this gentle marling effect that I really like. It adds a depth to the colour. So for this one, I made up a swatch to see what it would look like to use these really quite pale colours, but combine them with a black mohair. So this is the swatch, and I really hope that the camera picks up on that detail. At the top and bottom I used the grey, and then I just striped it. Just for this swatch I made a 3-row stripe. In the actual jumper I would make wider stripes, and I would have them alternating between colours and grey. So the two colours that I was the most curious about were the yellow and the pale blue, because they are the lightest colours in the range. And it's an interesting look. It is quite stark. The black mohair kind of dirties these light colours and gives them not a depth, but like another layer on top. Like you can see that what this is a yellow yarn with some black streaked through. And I really like that effect. And I'm not sure if this is a controversial opinion. Let me know what you think of these, this combination of colourful yarn and black mohair. Let me know also if you find this quite ugly, because I can imagine that a lot of people would not be into this. But I am. I can picture a whole jumper in wide stripes, you know, starting with grey, then a colour, then grey, then another colour, grey, and so on. And I can imagine that looking quite cool and interesting in a way that a matchy wool and mohair just don't. This is what I'm planning to knit in terms of jumpers and tops for this summer. But I also have a few sock patterns that I like. I like having socks to sort of knit in between larger projects or alongside them, knitting on the train, knitting in front of the telly when the bigger project is just a little more complicated. The first sock pattern that I've been eyeing for a really long time is these absolutely adorable cat socks. They're called the Kitty Ankle Socks by inorgaknit. It's a free pattern and I think it's fantastic for using up scraps. I mean, really just too cute, and yeah, definitely going to make those. I'm thinking of using this plain black sock yarn that I nicked from my mum. Spoke about that as well in the last podcast. And then combining that with this, which is a Lana Grossa sock yarn that I used to make a pair of socks for my mum. Now my mum has teeny tiny feet. She says she's a size 36, which I believe equates to a UK size 3. But I think she's lying, because I made the socks to a size 36 and they're a bit too big for her. So I think she might actually be a size 35, so literal children's size feet, which means I have a lot of leftovers from this sock yarn. And yeah, I think just these two combined would make very cute cat socks. This is a really pretty sock yarn. Actually, I'm definitely going to buy this one again, maybe in different colorways. It's a tweeded, is that what you call it? A tweeded yarn. So the base color is either a very pale gray or an off-white, and it's streaked through with some really beautiful pale colors. Just so pretty to look at. And, you know, the black yarn for contrast to make the little cat faces. So precious. Yeah. That's one pair of socks I'm definitely going to cast on. Another pair that I really like the look of, and they're, you know, fairly simple, but I think look really cute, are these textured short socks by Knits Please. This is also a free pattern. It's basically just shorty socks in a seed stitch or moss stitch, depending on where you're from. So it's the 2-row repeated knit purl alternating pattern. It's really easy to do, it's pretty brainless, and I don't mind purling, so I'm quite happy to do that for a sock's worth of a project. And yeah, I think I might do these ones from this yellow sock yarn. It's also Lana Grossa yarn. I made myself some shorty socks from that, and I have pretty much exactly that amount left. So, you know, I expect I can just make myself another pair from these. And if they turn out slightly too short, well, then I can give them to my mum, can't I? The final pair of socks that I like the look of, and these are not free, these are paid for are the Spoondrift socks by this Handmade Life. They are just the most precious little lace socks. Such a fun, cute, airy pattern. I really have a lot of sock yarn that I could make these for. And I can also imagine those with a contrast cuff and toe if I don't have enough of one type of sock yarn. But I feel like I have an actual socks quantities worth of this grey sock yarn because I've only used this to do a contrast heel and toe on a different pair of socks. So I'll weigh this out obviously, but I'm fairly certain this is enough to make a pair of lace socks. And this is the Drops alpaca sock yarn, which I think is called Drop Snort. But all the details about yarns, etc. you'll find in the description box. So there you have it. These are my knitting plans for this spring and summer. Probably not going to get to all of these, but I'm hoping to at least make 2 tops and 2 pairs of socks. I think I'd be happy with that. We'll see how that goes. I'll report back. That was it. Thank you for watching. Bye.